I understand the Washington Wizards are not a great team, but this is what the Knicks should do. The Knicks should be beating teams that they should beat handedly, and there should be no thoughts or confusions about who the better team is, especially when Bradley Beal's not even playing. The fact I should have mentioned that at the top of the show. Bradley Beal was out. You didn't see him on the box score, even though I didn't really pay too much attention to the Wizards because let's be honest, they're terrible. So hey, what's going on? Quis here from Sports Vibes TV, and in this video, I just want to give my thoughts on the Knicks' victory against the Washington Wizards. So last night, the Knicks went out there and we beat the Washington Wizards by the score of 109-91. And there were some things in the games that I liked, and there were also some things that I was kind of like, we still need to work, or we need some improvement in those areas. I'll start with the positives. Now, I was not a fan of the Derrick Rose trade, but it seems like him coming to the team is not going to affect Emmanuel Quickley's progression. And it seems like it's also going to help Obi Toppin as he develops into a we hope, starting caliber power forward. Now, I like that Derrick Rose, when he's with the second unit, he's actually looking for Obi. We've seen times out there in games where Obi's open, Obi's in the right spot for a pass, and there's been players on the team, whether that be the veterans or even at times it's Emmanuel Quickley, because honestly, Quickley is still learning to be a point guard in the NBA. So there's times he misses Obi, and I think that was really wearing on Obi. You saw some of his frustrations being expressed sometimes on the court, and now with Derrick Rose on the team, he's actually doing a pretty good job, or a great job, at finding Obi and allowing Obi to get some easy baskets. You saw that there was times where Obi had the mismatch on a fast break or in a transition, and Derrick Rose found Obi for a nice easy bucket, and he got the N1 in that play as well. There were also moments in that game where Derrick Rose showed you flashes of him being that go-to scorer. Now, he can't do it for extended minutes, or I don't think he can do it for extended minutes, but if Tibbs is going to keep him around that low 20 minutes per game threshold, then I think he's going to be an asset for this team, especially in that second unit. The second unit right now, to me, is the shining spot or the shining star of this team. And I think that's something I've been able to say for the most part for the entirety of this season, whether it was Emmanuel Quickley doing his thing to start the season when he wasn't injured, and even now as we have Derrick Rose being another microwave that we can insert late in the first quarter or early in the second quarter to really catapult this team if we're seeing some struggles. What I think is not so great about this team still is the starting lineup. Now, the starting lineup, Elfrid Payton is still that starting point guard for us, but I just don't think he's the guy. Like, he had a decent game, but when you're out there looking at this team on the court, when Elfrid Payton is the one initiating the offense and running the team, things just look stagnant. Things look slow. It's like the ball sticks. There's no continuity on offense. And when you pair Elfrid Payton with a Julius Randle, there's not much movement, and everything kind of just lags. The thing with Elfrid Payton's play style and Julius Randle's play style is they both kind of stop the ball, and they like to slow down the pace, and it's not the most entertaining brand of basketball, but at least if they were going out there and punching teams in the face every night, you'd be like, okay, I can live with it. Now, the Washington Wizards, led by Brickbrook, they're not a great team. So the Knicks, we were able to get away with it. We were able to build somewhat of a cushion with the starting lineup. But as you saw, once we put that second unit in, it kind of took off. And if we can get that same kind of energy with the starting lineup, then I think the Knicks are going to be a dangerous team to face in that first round. Do I think we're going to be legitimate championship contenders? No, that's not the point of this. That's not the goal of this season for me. This season was to come in and to see some positive development from RJ, Mitchell Robinson, Kevin Knox, Emmanuel Quickly, and Obi Toppin. Now, to begin the season, I probably would have flip-flopped the last two names and I would have put Obi above IQ. But IQ has come out like, I don't know what, like a phenom, a young phenom for this team, something that I haven't seen for the Knicks in forever. Even when we went out to try to get guards, they were mostly guards that were past their prime. So to see us draft a point guard like this, to me, is exciting. And to me, was the reason I didn't like the Derrick Rose trade, because now you're seeing IQ being moved primarily off ball, which is working. I have the box score. Let me pull the box score up for you guys. And if you look, the team played pretty well statistically. Julius Randle held down that starting unit. Like I say, time and time again, the starting unit, they do not get easy buckets. For the most part, everything that they get is they worked hard for it, or it's a tough shot. And it's usually a tough shot that's being hit by Julius Randle. And he was doing his thing this game. Also, the boards, we were killing them when it came to both offensive and defensive rebounding. They couldn't handle us. Alex Len couldn't do anything with our bigs. Robin Lopez, same story with him. So we were able to feast out there, and that's what helped propel us to this victory. Our defense, rebounding, and the ability to knock down our shots. We weren't great from three, but field goal wise, we were still somewhat decent, 45% from the field. Like I said, 3 points, we didn't do too great, 25% from the field, something we still have to work on as a team. But if you just look at the minutes and what these players were able to do, it was a solid game for the most part. Julius Randle, like I said, 24 points, 18 rebounds, 4 assists. Reggie Bullock was, serviceable. We still need an upgrade at small forward. He's had games where he's had flashes, but for the most part, we still need a more consistent upgrade at small forward. If I was the Knicks regime, that's who I would be looking when I'm scouring the trade market, or even players that may end up being cut and you can pick up for pennies on the dollar. Mitchell Robinson, unfortunately, Mitchell Robinson got hurt in this game, and I'm expecting him to be out for an extended period of time. I'm going to make a separate video about that and some of the things that Tibbs said post-game, so stay tuned for that. Also, Elfrid Payton, like I said, Elfrid Payton had a decent game. It's just that even when he has a decent game, the offense doesn't really flow. So that's why I think Elfrid Payton is not the right point guard for us. Elfrid Payton might have been the right point guard, maybe 15, 20 years ago when the game was different. Right now, I think we still need an upgrade at point guard. We have options internally now. I've been saying time and time again, IQ can be elevated to starting point guard. Or now we have Derrick Rose. If it's, we're seeing that Derrick Rose in the second unit is not eating too much into Emmanuel Quickly's minutes. So maybe we can elevate Derrick Rose to starting point guard, move IQ over, and then see what we can do with some of the other younger players we have on this roster, especially with the Mitchell Robinson injury. See if we can shuffle the lineup. Now, let's see. RJ did not have a great game. Like I said, there were a lot of positives in this game, but RJ's production was not one. He went 3 for 13 from the field. He hit his free throws, which I guess is a positive we can point out. But outside of that, scoring-wise, he really didn't do much. He did have 4 assists and 3 rebounds, so he found ways to contribute, in other areas of the game, but not RJ's greatest game. And hopefully you see RJ have some games or some stretches where he kind of struggles, and then he'll pick things back up. So hopefully he'll start trending upwards either today against the Houston Rockets or later on moving forward in the next game. Obi, I mentioned him earlier before. Obi had a great game in my eyes. He is finally being used attacking the basket. They're finding him as he's heading to the basket. And it was frustrating as a fan to see Obi build as this. He may not ever be as good as Amari, but he was billed as an Amari Stoudemire-esque player. And yes, Amari had the ability to knock down an outside shot, but, and yes, that made Amari deadly because you had to defend against that. But what really put people on Amari's radar was his ability to attack the basket off that pick and roll with Steve Nash and finish with authority. So as a fan of Amari and his tenure with the Knicks, to have Obi put out there to just try and be a pick and pop type player, was disheartening, and I'm glad that we're seeing Derrick Rose find Obi as he's attacking the basket and getting into the paint. And we are starting to see that pay off. And even Clyde was saying it in the broadcast. You're seeing Obi get a little bit more confidence as the season goes on. And I feel like if Derrick Rose is going to continue to perform the way he's going to perform, then Obi Toppin may be the biggest beneficiary on this team from that Derrick Rose acquisition. Now, as you can see, Knox, he got some minutes sparingly, but his role may change. He didn't really do much, which has been pretty much the mantra for Kevin Knox this whole season. He goes in, he doesn't really do much, and then he's going to toil on the end of the bench. But hopefully he'll get it together. This season for me was a make or break year for Kevin Knox, because if he doesn't do anything this year, I would assume the Knicks may end up moving on from him next offseason as they continue to build out this roster. So hopefully he'll start getting some more minutes again and be able to actually produce. Because of the Mitchell Robinson injury, Nerlens Noel actually had to start the second half. Now, as you can see with Mitchell Robinson's stats, he was a monster in the first half. He had a double-double in the first half because he didn't play the whole second. And to see him get injured in this game was unfortunate, because it seemed like he was finally figuring things out. But Nerlens Noel, he came in and he was still a serviceable replacement. He came in, he had 3 blocks. Didn't do too much scoring-wise, but honestly, we aren't expecting much in terms of point from our center position. We've been getting decent performance from Julius Randle, RJ, Quickly, and other players, so we haven't focused too much at the center position in terms of scoring. But defensively, Nerlens Noel was doing his thing, and Taj Gibson even came out and he played, he was serviceable. Taj Gibson was Taj Gibson. Austin Rivers, he got some shine. Alec Burks had a bad game when it comes to his scoring, but he was out there doing other things. He had, 8 rebounds, and he had 1 assist, but he was still plus 21 for his minutes out there on the court. So if you're not going to be giving me much offensively, don't be out there and be a net negative. And, Alec Burks was not a net negative, as you can see. He was far from it. And at least if you're going to be out there and not scoring, provide in other ways, and we saw Burks do that. And, last but not least, Emmanuel Quickly did not have the best game when it comes to his shooting, but we saw him be able to score in multiple ways, and it was great to see him continue to be aggressive, even though he's not dominating the ball with that second unit, something that he was doing up until the Derrick Rose trade. He had some highlights. He even made a defender fall right before he dropped a nice, step back 3. So he's still showing signs of progression, and he's still doing some of the things we saw pre-Rose trade. So I'm going to be okay with this trade for now, and I wanted to wait before I kind of gave my thoughts and opinions on it, just to see what Tibbs was cooking up and what they may have in store for Derrick Rose, for Emmanuel Quickly, and for the roster after the trade. So you let me know what you guys think about this game. Are you as happy as I am about the win? I understand the Washington Wizards are not a great team, but this is what the Knicks should do. The Knicks should be beating teams that they should beat handedly, and there should be no thoughts or confusions about who the better team is, especially when Bradley Beal's not even playing. The fact I should have mentioned that at the top of the show. Bradley Beal was out. You didn't see him on the box score, even though I didn't really pay too much attention to the Wizards, because let's be honest, they're terrible. So I was focusing primarily on the Knicks. But I want to know what your thoughts were on the game down below in the comments. Once again, I'm Quis, host of Sports Vibes TV, and I'm out.